George Carlin once said he was completely in favor of the separation of church and state. He said these two institutions screw you up enough on their own, so both of them together is certain death. He said that as a joke. The audience laughed. They laughed because it was absurd, because of course America would never let religion take over the military. Of course the person in charge of the most powerful fighting force in human history would never use his position to turn the Pentagon into a house of worship. Of course, a pastor who believes women should not be allowed to vote, that slavery was biblically justified, and that homosexuality should be a crime would never be invited to preach inside the headquarters of the United States Department of Defense. Except that is exactly what happened. 2 weeks ago, in February 2026, on camera, broadcast on the Pentagon's internal television network, and posted proudly on the Department of Defense's official social media account with the caption, "We have gathered at the Pentagon for our monthly worship service. We are one nation under God." This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a hypothetical. This has already happened, and it keeps happening every single month, and nobody is stopping it. This is that story. Let's start with the man at the center of all of this. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, responsible for the largest military budget on the planet, over $800 billion. More than 1.3 million active duty service members from every faith, every background, every belief system, and no belief system. Sikhs, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, agnostics, atheists. All of them serve. All of them put their lives on the line for a country founded on the principle that the government would never tell them which God to worship. Pete Hegseth decided that principle no longer applies. In May of 2025, he launched a monthly Christian worship service inside the Pentagon auditorium. Not an interfaith gathering, not a moment of silence, a specifically Christian worship service with a pastor, a sermon, and prayer. Broadcast on the building's internal television network so every service member walking through the Pentagon could see it. In December, Hegseth brought in Franklin Graham, who preached a Christmas sermon describing God as a God of war. A preacher stood inside the building that commands the most destructive military force in history and told the people in that building that their God is a God of war. That was not a prayer for peace. That was a blessing on bombs. But Franklin Graham was just the warm-up. In February 2026, Hegseth brought in the most extreme religious figure to ever set foot inside the Pentagon, a pastor named Doug Wilson. If you do not know who Doug Wilson is, you are about to find out. Doug Wilson is the founder of Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho. He co-founded the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches, a denomination with over 150 churches worldwide. He helped create a network of nearly 475 schools across America. He runs a publishing house and a college. He has built an empire. The beliefs at the foundation of that empire should disturb every American. Doug Wilson believes wives should submit to their husbands in all things. Women in his church cannot hold leadership positions or vote on congregational decisions. He openly supports repealing the 19th Amendment. He believes homosexuality should be a criminal offense. He has advocated for the United States to become a Christian theocracy. He has publicly written that Christian slave owners in the American South were on firm scriptural ground. He described the relationship between slaves and their owners as affectionate. This is not some fringe figure screaming on a street corner. This is a man with hundreds of schools, hundreds of churches, and now a direct line to the Secretary of Defense. Now, if this kind of content matters to you, I need you to subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications. Drop a comment telling me whether you think this crosses the line from religious freedom into something else entirely. That engagement is how this channel fights the algorithm. Now let me tell you what happened inside the Pentagon. On February 17, 2026, Doug Wilson delivered a 15-minute sermon in the Pentagon auditorium to military personnel and government employees, broadcast live on the Pentagon internal television network. He told the audience he was praying for a Black Swan revival, another great awakening of Christianity across America. He said God can do whatever he likes, and that a prayer meeting at the Pentagon was an example of God working through unlikely materials. After the sermon, Pete Hegseth joined Wilson on stage. He thanked him publicly, saying, "Thank you for your leadership, your mentorship, for the things you've started, the truth you've told, the willingness to be bold. It's the type of thing we are trying to exercise here." Then Hegseth put his hand on Wilson's shoulder and led the room in prayer, saying, "Heavenly Father, thank you for this service, these people, this auditorium, this pastor, our great nation founded 250 years ago on truth. Lord God, if we can keep it." The Pentagon's official social media account then posted photos of the two men praying together. The United States Secretary of Defense invited a man who defends slavery, opposes women voting, and wants homosexuality criminalized to preach inside the headquarters of the American military. He then thanked him on stage, prayed with him on camera, and the government posted it as a point of pride. George Carlin once said, "The truth is whatever they say it is, and the Constitution is whatever they say it is." That's exactly what's happening here. The separation of church and state is being dismantled in plain sight, with a smile, a sermon, and a photo op. But this isn't just about one prayer service. This is a pattern. Hegseth is a member of Wilson's denomination. He moved his entire family to Tennessee, specifically to enroll his children in a school connected to Wilson's network. This isn't a politician who happens to be religious. This is a man whose entire worldview, whose children's education, and now whose leadership of the military is shaped by the ideology of a Christian theocrat. And the pattern extends beyond prayer services. In September 2025, Hegseth issued new grooming standards banning beards, long hair, and superficial individual expression. What that means in practice is that Sikh service members required by faith to maintain uncut hair and beards, Jewish and Muslim service members who keep beards as religious observance, are being forced to choose between their faith and their military career. 48 members of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus warned the changes would affect thousands of service members. So Christians at the Pentagon get monthly worship services with the Secretary of Defense. They get FaceTime with leadership. They get their faith celebrated on government social media. Meanwhile, Sikhs, Jews, and Muslims are being told they can't keep their beards. That's not religious freedom. That's religious favoritism. Inside the institution that's supposed to defend the Constitution, the same Constitution that says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And it's not just Hegseth. This is happening across the entire administration simultaneously. Secretary of State Rubio invoked Christian heritage at the Munich Security Conference. The Internal Revenue Service changed its rules, so churches can now endorse political candidates. Florida's legislature passed a religious expression amendment for public schools by a vote of 93 to 17. A new GOP congressional caucus launched, signaling a resurgence of the anti-Sharia movement. At the NRB convention, Hegseth was the headline speaker alongside representatives from the Babylon Bee, PragerU, and David Barton, a Christian activist who has spent decades arguing America was founded as a Christian nation. Hegseth said, "We are not in woke we trust. We are in God we trust." He bragged about the Pentagon prayer services, said the left hates it, and added, "The left wing shrieks, which means we're right over the target." He claimed that the core tenets of American governance and individual liberty come directly from Christian faith. This is the Secretary of Defense, mocking people who disagree with him, bragging about holding Christian services in a government building, claiming America's core values are Christian values. George Carlin once said, "I have as much authority as the Pope. I just don't have as many people who believe it." That was a joke about how authority is manufactured through belief. And what Hegseth is doing is the same thing. He's manufacturing religious authority inside the military by creating rituals, services, and symbols that make Christianity the default faith of the Department of Defense. Once that default is set, once it becomes normal, once people stop questioning it, the power becomes self-reinforcing. Christians feel welcome. Everyone else feels like outsiders. If you've watched this far, you know this matters, like this video right now. Share it with someone who serves in the military. Leave a comment telling me what you think this looks like in 5 years if nobody stops it. Every like, every share, every comment pushes this into the feeds of people who need to see it. Now let me bring this home. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation has received dozens of complaints from military members and contractors about these services. Contractors told military.com they fear failing to attend could hurt their careers. One contractor said, "You do not actually need evidence of retribution to find fault with the leader of a government agency inviting his employees for a prayer service. It is inherently discriminatory. It provides an opportunity for Christians to get face time and be in the room with higher-ups. Jews, Muslims, and other non-Christians are not provided this opportunity. That is institutional discrimination. Not the kind you find in a manual. The quiet kind. You are present at the prayer meeting and the boss sees your face. You are absent because you are Jewish or Muslim or atheist and the boss does not. Over time, those presences and absences shape promotions, assignments, trust, and careers. Everyone inside the building knows it, even if nobody says it out loud. This is what Carlin meant when he said religion and government together is certain death. The death of fairness, the death of equality, the death of the idea that your government belongs to all of you, not just the ones who pray the right way. The United States military is the most diverse institution in the country. People from every background serve side by side. They eat together, train together, bleed together, and sometimes die together. The one thing that is supposed to bind them is not a book or a prayer or a pastor. It is the Constitution, a document that begins with "we the people." Not we the Christians, not we the believers, we the people. And when the man in charge of defending that document turns the Pentagon into a church, invites a theocrat to preach, celebrates it on social media, and mocks anyone who objects, he is not defending the Constitution. He is replacing it with a cross, a sermon, and a photo op. George Carlin did not live to see this, but he predicted it with the precision of a prophet. The irony would not be lost on him. The people who scream loudest about defending the Constitution are the ones most willing to shred it the moment their God tells them to. The next Pentagon prayer service is coming, and the one after that, and the one after that. Unless the people watching this video make enough noise, Doug Wilson will not be the last theocrat to preach inside the headquarters of the American military. He will just be the beginning. If you believe the military should serve the people, not a pastor. If you believe the Constitution means what it says. If you believe reason should guide the most powerful fighting force in the world, not ancient texts written by men who thought the earth was flat, then subscribe to this channel right now. Turn on the bell. Share this video everywhere you can. Because this is not just about religion. This is about power, who has it, who is using it, and what they are building with it while the rest of us were not paying attention. Reason over rituals. Always.